Hello everyone, welcome to growth version of the channel that shares the essential lessons drawn from good books or famous psychologists. Iller once said that most of the human troubles in the world, all relationships, come from human relationships throughout the course of a person's life. Past conflicts and contradictions may still be deep in your heart. Some wounds are as clear and bright as the sun. But there are wounds that silently hibernate, silently smoldering, but never disappearing. They all dominate your life, causing your mind to forever be trapped in a cycle of suffering, your soul shackled by hatred, and entails all the physical health problems of a person's body and mind that are deeply connected and circulate energy. When a person's mind is imprisoned in anger, resentment, hatred, guilt, and feelings of loss. If you have an error, your body will react by developing diseases. In other words, the body is a mirror of the soul. So if today you still have negative emotions that control when the past comes back, still make you stir deep in your heart, still the feeling of loneliness reigns, still torments in the swamp of guilt for things that have passed, still have to. If you suffer from chronic physical illnesses, then perhaps the book Dare to Forgive will truly untie the knots that are still tight in your heart. A New York Times bestseller that has the power to move and influence. The book has a powerful impact on those who have read it, imbuing them with a message that everyone understands but few can do: forgiveness. The author, Edward M. Hollowell, is a medical doctor specializing in ADHD. He is also a professor at Harvard Medical School and the director of the Hollowell Center for Counseling and Therapy. He uses his own practical experience in the field of psychotherapy to treat people with their own pain and loss. His life, by sincerely listening to each story of the people he met, and summarizing this book, here we invite you to listen to the quintessence of what the author has to say. The author wants to convey to each reader how hatred has blinded you. Each of us has experienced the feeling of anger towards someone when they harm us. It could be unintentional or intentional. Criticism of our father, contemptuous bullying, is behavior that affects our rights, is betrayal, robbing jobs, money, relatives, ruining the lives you leave behind. Inside you is a lifelong hatred that can never be forgotten, can never be forgiven. Resentment, anger, hatred, suffering, because someone hurt us, is part of human instinct, but nothing lasts forever. Even the most terrible hurt will eventually become the past, and the past will pass. If you keep holding on to it in your heart and let it cling to you for a long time, it will turn into hatred that is difficult to let go of. Children resent their parents, parents give up hatred, and children brothers turn against each other, do not want to see each other, divorce, then look at each other like enemies. Neighbors are like thorns in people's eyes. I am inherently stubborn and stubborn. Ben always thinks he is right and always likes to play the victim. Everyone thinks my pain is the greatest. The damage I have to endure is the most special. Other people's sins are deserve the most punishment. Then we just walk every day, carrying the burden of resentment and pain in your mind. Those old wounds become evidence to maintain the pain in your heart, to justifying the negativity and anger within you. In that very stubbornness, we use sharp chains to tie ourselves to the past. The more we try to move on, it will only tighten you and cause you all the pain from spirit to body. Hatred in the heart, the longer it is contained, the more it will cling to the heart, turning your soul into a wild beast starved of love, distorting your own perception and unable to think nothing but the thought of punishing and taking revenge on the person who hurt you. The great President Nelson Mandela once said that resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill the person you're hatred. Your resentment cannot touch the other person, it only nourishes the hurt of the one who holds it in. Furthermore, you need to know that revenge can bring short-term satisfaction, but then comes resistance, empty loss, and continued suffering. Revenge does not heal wounds, it only deepens those wounds, creating more hatred and hurt. It can also make a person become numb and lose the ability to feel love, forgiveness, compassion. Instead of solving the problem, revenge only pushes people further away from peace and happiness. Buddha once taught that by using the method of punishment, hatred cannot be. How can we forgive? Only by letting go of the desire to punish will hatred subside on its own. Everyone knows forgiveness is the medicine that heals all, but why can't we forgive, still can't let go? What is forgiveness? Forgiveness is freeing yourself from the obsession of injustice that has happened to you, so that you can live a free life without being haunted by the shadow of the other person. Harm covers your life. Forgiveness is a thorny path. It is not easy. We often do not see the reasons to forgive, but there are too many reasons never to forgive. Perhaps the biggest reason is the fear of losing autonomy and a sense of control or power over the person who has hurt the ego's instinct to attack the perpetrator. It is the fear of losing control and the feeling of power over the person who has hurt the ego. It is the ego's instinct to defend itself against the experience of hurt and to re-establish a sense of security. The more painful the wound, the more intense the desire for revenge. Forgiveness hurts the ego. It forces the ego to let go of control. Just the thought of forgiveness makes us feel threatened. Fear of being seen as weak, cowardly, and arrogant. The sky-high ego never allows a person to give up his pride and self-esteem. Pride is sometimes complacency, so forgiveness leads to us always being difficult, insisting that you can never forgive anyone who has done anything to you that has offended or wronged you, is like going against your natural survival instinct. Our defense while hating the person who hurt us is a medicine to soothe the wounds in you. The second reason is that you do not have the courage to forgive. The author said that forgiveness will start right away in pain, because when you decide to forgive, you have to stir up again, have to face directly, have to accept the deepest pain you have ever experienced. The hurt like thorns in the heart try to hide it. It will stab deeper into your heart, making each beat heavier and more painful. Forgiveness is facing the pain. When once, courageously pull out the thorn in your heart by admitting the pain, accepting it, it will slowly fade away in your heart. Third, you cannot forgive until the person who hurt you has apologized or shown remorse. This is probably a common problem, but you need to understand if you let your forgiveness depend on when the person who hurt you is holding you hostage, by cutting off your forgiveness process, all your freedom of soul is placed in the hands of another. Remember that you don't need validation from others to forgive, because it is your own personal journey to unleash your own inner freedom. Fourth, forgiveness is the opposite of forgiveness. The ideology of public opinion and human nature. When people think that hatred is the altruistic person, then being a saint is tacitly assuming that giving up hatred is too difficult and far away. Only saints with noble compassion can do this, so we give up forgiveness, and it is this wrong prejudice that makes people think that forgiving sinners and traitors is wrong. Betraying those who are like you is a foolish, weak, even stupid act. In essence, as Mr. Gallant said, weak people can never forgive. Forgiveness is the quality of strong people. You don't need to be only a saint can forgive others and does not need to forgive others to become a saint. You forgive for your own freedom. Thursday, we think revenge is the only way to relieve the pain, to regain what was lost, to affirm one's own long-standing hurt. The more severe the hurt, the more difficult it is for us to escape the obsession of revenge. The more people are immersed in it, wounds, and try to amplify their own pain to justify their revenge, they do all kinds of stupid things to punish the other person, not knowing that they are also torturing themselves. They turn themselves into slaves of their own pain. They corrode their souls in a vicious cycle of hatred, forcing themselves into the thought that the other person must pay the price, must be miserable, must be unhappy. You can live peacefully. In the end, cannot live peacefully all life, not know what is happiness, because pain turns into hatred, hatred creates bitterness all life. Friday, we think that forgiveness means sending a message: you can continue to hurt me. You need to understand that forgiveness does not mean ignoring everything that person has done. It does not mean accepting or condoning their behavior so that they can continue to hurt us. Forgiveness is about solving your problem rather than the offender's problem. It is about freeing yourself from resentment, and the lingering pain of forgiveness can be healing you, but it may not save the person who hurt you. So forgiveness does not exclude setting boundaries to protect yourself, protect your soul, by being wise, and also does not exclude forms of punishment. The general punishment of society to force the sower to reap the consequences of what he has caused, only then can they have the trung. The essence of forgiveness, the only way to heal all wounds. Surely, everyone knows that forgiveness is good for your physical health. When hatred builds up like a mountain, it will grow and spread in your body like a malignant tumor. Forgiveness will make the tumor shrink and gradually disappear, and can disappear. Author psychology Professor Helen Chm once wrote that all your illnesses come from not knowing how to forgive. Every time we are sick, we need to look around and find someone you need to forgive. It could be your parents, your spouse, your children, your roommate you used to tease and humiliate, your neighbor you used to talk behind your back. You are a stranger not knowing how to say cruel words on social networks, or teachers who have judged you not good enough, not moral enough, or most likely that person is yourself. No matter how long you have been stuck with, everyone needs someone to come back to. To forgive, to let go of the resentment in your heart so that your body will no longer produce more stress hormones. From here, stress-related diseases such as blood pressure, pain, heart attack, headache, muscle pain, stomach pain, chronic inflammatory diseases will also decrease, and the immune system will also improve, increasing the ability to fight disease. So, for your inner self, forgiveness will be miraculous. How does the author tell the story of Sushi, a 2-year-old girl who was kidnapped? Her mother, after days of searching, swore that even if the thief was pregnant now, I came back safe and sound. I would have immediately used my teeth to kill him. But then, a year after Sushi went missing, the toad called Dien finally the beastman killed the little girl. You know, if anyone having children, surely just a moment of imagining that happening to your child, the thought of hatred is enough to swallow the perpetrator. But Mother Sushi, she did not want to let hatred invade her life. So she chose a humane act, by asking for the death penalty to be exempted, because she knew that with each additional death, the pain of losing her child could not be relieved. Such punishment would only make the bitterness and suffering always imprisoned in the past. The past makes life meaningless, only forgiveness can truly save her, her family, and the victim's family. Just like the shrimp in this book, the shrimp has every reason to hate. The nasty neighbor cruelly poisoned Tom's dog because she hated his turtle noise. He had enough wrath to get revenge on her, but he, knowing that all of that would be meaningless and harmful, when it held him back to the pain of the past, no matter what, the dog could not come back to life. Holding on to hatred would only prolong the pain of the disease. The shrimp chose to only remember his memories with the dog and chose to forgive, and this decision transformed his anger into sympathy. The shrimp knew that behind a cruel person like her, is very miserable and has so much pain in her heart. It's not easy to forgive someone who blatantly took something precious from you, even if they are apologizing once, 10 times or even 1,000 times, it's not enough to ease the pain in your heart, let alone when an apology or regret from them doesn't even happen. When your husband is abused, if your lover betrays you, he will not apologize to you, but will blame you for his infidelity. If someone steals your things, of course, they will not leave a letter of apology. When you get cut off by a car, people just rush away. When you judge your friend, they think it's what you deserve. When your neighbor dumps your body in your house, you don't admit your mistake. Your co-workers dare to say lies and sabotage. You van. So what should I do to be able to say forgiveness is truly forgiveness? First, you just need to think about this. Ask yourself, why you have to get angry even though you are the right person. Do you want poison from the anger of others penetrates and destroys this one and only body of yours? Do you want your pain to grow or to wither away over the years? Do you think holding grudges for revenge, will this way or that end keep the pain in your heart or not? Or is it just a false satisfaction that the mind deceives you? Can revenge change the past or not? Can revenge bring the dead back to life or not? Please be serious. Think carefully and answer these questions for yourself, and here are a few things you can do to bring forgiveness into your daily life. First, learn how to admit your hurt, anger. This is simple to say, and everyone understands the need to do so, but we can't always do it, because pride, ego will often prevent you from exposing yourself. Never suppress your unstable emotions, they are a natural part of life experience. Take the time and space to name them, feel them, share them. You can write down your feelings or share them with someone you trust. When you acknowledge your negative emotions, your energy flow will no longer be blocked. That is also the opportunity for you to let go of things that have passed and forgive the mistakes of others. Second, know how to control. Control is different from suppress. Control here is control anger. When others hurt you, normally we will not be able to stay in an angry state for more than 15 minutes. Because the qualities in your body do not allow you to endure the climax of emotions for longer. So if you practice your ability to stay silent and do nothing for this long enough, by leaving the current situation, find something else to do, or maybe practice avoiding the situation, focus on your breathing, think and feel your emotions at that time, you will be able to dissolve that state of peak tension without letting the anger be amplified. The mind swims in the sea of anger, the tiger mark of anger that causes unpredictable dangers left behind. Third, think clearly. After you have calmly passed the stage of restraint, accepting and deeply feeling your own emotions, your physiological functions have almost returned to normal. Usually anger will disappear at this time. Understand that in this life, in any matter, there will never be a perfect result for everyone. So, if someone else accidentally hurts you, or yourself, you will hurt others, is what will happen. But this is an opportunity for each of us to learn to grow stronger through forgiveness and letting go of the past. Fourth, let go of the hooks that hold you to past pain. First, ask yourself what has bound you to the hatred. For example, in marriages, breaking down the victim mentality can hook you, so that you can't forget that turbulent turning point. It may not have serious consequences for you at present, but it silently takes away your joy every day. You should remember that the opposite of love is not hate, but indifference and apathy. If you still have a feeling of discomfort, hatred, anger, and dissatisfaction when talking about the old relationship, then maybe you still haven't really forgiven and can't let go. Sit still and deeply feel your own entangled emotions. Observe yourself more every time you think and act attached to people in the past, and above all, take responsibility for your own life decisions, no matter what. Whether it's a grudge against someone, a sibling, a parent, a friend, or a child, ask yourself what's keeping you from forgiving, the feeling of fear or guilt that keeps you from letting go. They reconcile. Each person will have their own answers, have their own questions that need to be straightened, need to be questioned and realized. In the end, give others sympathy. Most of us understand clearly your own pain, but it's too hard to understand that the person who needs us to be willing to forgive also has a heart full of wounds. Author Adia Sandy once wrote that everyone grows up with tragedy to some extent, that even with a great education, having loving parents, and having the best nurturing environment in the world, no one can grow up without going through a certain amount of pain. Understanding this truth, we will develop great sympathy for everyone, including those who have hurt you. From now on, sympathy will replace hatred, compassion will erase all suffering. You sympathize and forgive. You don't lose your self-control, you become more self-control than ever, because you have given yourself back your freedom, and you also need to understand forgiveness does not force you must forget the past. Just free yourself from the burden of what is gone forever, that is enough. In the end, remember, never force yourself to forgive. It is a process that takes time, and let it happen naturally. Just decide to be willing to forgive, deal with your own emotions well, and gather sympathy for others. You will find relief within yourself. And eventually, you realize when you have forgiven or never. In the name of justice. In the name of justice here is not related to the legal system of justice enforcement of a country or an organization, but it is related to the inner self of a person, that is the demand for justice in the psychology of each individual. The psychology that demands justice is often dominated by hatred, desire, and fear. There is a story in the New Testament that says this: during Jesus' ministry, a group of Jews brought a woman caught in adultery and told Jesus that the woman had been caught in the act when she committed adultery, and according to the law we have the right to stone her to death. What do you think? Jesus just bowed his head and wrote on the ground with his finger. Then he stood up straight and said in front of the people, "Here, if anyone feels like he has never done anything wrong, then throw the first stone at her." So one by one, they left. The Lord just gently said to that woman, "Go home, and never do it again." Of course, in our modern society we cannot judge a crime by forgiving them and telling them not to commit it again. But be careful of things called humanity. Dan Tsong Lai reclaims justice. The author wrote that the anger that is considered to be justified is like a drug that easily makes you drown in the desire to judge or punish others. Of course you have the right to punish wrong, but don't let your heart become hardened and scratch more hatred and resentment, or put your point of view above others' point of view. Consider your mistakes and look back at life. In your own life, you can see the anger and judgment of the businessman Tsong Lai flooding social networking sites when someone has any mistake or false opinion, harsh words insulting the images, heavy punishments, attacking a person without regard for the truth of the whole story. A series of hateful and hostile attack phrases are easily typed down to satisfy the so-called name of morality, virtue, while the person who needs our attention is ourselves. We are very good at digging up other people's past and mistakes, and engrave it deeply in our brains. Even though a long time has passed, we are still looking at that person through a prism covered with dust and blood, naturally thinking that you are superior to others, and then making judgments. Everything is constantly changing every minute, and people are also constantly changing every minute. The past should not be something that binds you, and you should not use your mind to use other people's past to bind yourself. It will only suffocate you more. The French mountaineer wrote more than 500 years ago that no one in this world is perfect. If you analyze someone's behavior and thoughts in detail, even if you hang him 10 times, it still won't change no crime. So on the journey of justice, you may find yourself holding grudges against people who have nothing to do with your life. Remind yourself, I too have said bad things and done bad things, harming others, also cut in front of someone, also said hurtful words, even to the people you love. And you yourself also need tolerance, need forgiveness from others. Each of us should only look at our own mistakes, change your own mistakes, never attack others in the name of justice. An attitude of always examining yourself will give rise to tolerance for the mistakes of others. Forgiveness is difficult. The hardest thing to forgive is yourself. Perhaps the hardest person to forgive is yourself. Sometimes we get caught up in a cycle of regret. Always fussing about the mistakes we have made, we blame ourselves for the wrong decisions, for the hurtful words, the pain of loss caused to someone or the opportunities missed. Negative thoughts can become a burden that makes us feel unworthy of happiness or peace. If we hide our sins and shame deep in our hearts, hoping that others can't see, and just trying to show off our most wonderful self in the eyes of everyone, the moment sitting with yourself you see yourself as terrible and hate yourself. Then Louis Hay, author, psychological consultant, self-healer for life. My life has gone through many unfortunate storms that continuously hit my life. In many of her books, she used all her heart to tell you something extremely important, that you came to this life with an important mission. Your first step is to love yourself. Loving yourself is the beginning of a lifelong relationship with yourself. It is the foundation of all positive life change. Forgiveness, and especially self-forgiveness, is the most important action to free yourself from the trapped energy, from negative emotions, and from here heal your soul. If you have ever apologized, if you hurt someone but they don't accept it, or if you have forever lost the chance to say sorry and no longer have the chance to make things right, then you need to understand that no matter how sincere you are, you try, no matter how you overcome it, there are still things in this world that are beyond your control. You just need to ask yourself about the lesson you learned through that mistake instead of punishing yourself by criticizing and beating yourself up. In your own eyes, that is the best repentance you can do. Mistakes do not define a person. And if you do not forgive yourself, you are silently telling the world that you are not worthy of being loved. Like that, you will definitely only attract more suffering to yourself, and not orient yourself towards good values in life. Always self-reflect on all actions and words of yourself is the best way to isolate yourself from further mistakes, and also the way to live that helps you feel worthy of forgiving yourself more. Find someone who can listen to you, confide in them your mistakes, your own regrets, listen to the advice and comfort. The guilt in you will also gradually lessen. And in fact, when you reduce your criticism of others, forgive others, you will also find it easier to forgive yourself. This world would become better if everyone was always willing to forgive. Conflicts, terrorism, wars in the world, all come from the deep hatred of greedy people. The desire for revenge has long dominated human history for thousands of years. The desire to reclaim justice has caused many people to lose their lives, but that does not stop war. No almighty being can stop the destruction. It is cruel, but each of us, small individuals, can do it together. By each person giving back freedom to ourselves, by being willing to forgive others and ourselves. All mistakes belong to the past, cannot be changed, cannot be changed. When revenge creates destruction, forgiveness, tolerance, and compassion can change the fate of the entire planet. The more love and forgiveness can touch the more stony hearts. When each person can forgive their enemies, they can not only escape the domination of anger and the desire for revenge, but also move the heart of that person. Retaliation only causes more suffering for many lives and future generations. When you forgive, you do not approve of the crime, but you reject the desire for revenge and create a stream of suffering. The energy waves of improvement spread to those around you. Try to learn how to help others practice forgiveness through their own efforts, and give them motivation by telling them about your efforts. Forgive yourself. I hope that today's sharing through the book can help you understand more clearly the nature of forgiveness and have enough courage to start learning how to forgive. Thank you for listening to the end. If you find this video useful, please share it with everyone and remember to give me a like button so I have motivation for the next videos. Goodbye and see you again in the future, next video. And that concludes our summary of Dare to Forgive. We hope this has been insightful and thought-provoking for you. Remember, forgiveness is not just for others, it's for your own freedom and well-being. If you enjoyed this content, be sure to hit that subscribe button for more summaries like this, and let us know in the comments what books or topics you'd like us to cover next. Thanks for joining us, and see you in the next video.